Hi guys, I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to talk about order of operations and exponents. And basically we're going to begin algebra. So algebra is something we are going to use for a while now. And it's the process of solving expressions and equations. So the first thing we're going to talk about is exponents. Now, before we do that, the topic for this notes is order of operations and exponents. The essential question is, what is the effect of inserting parentheses in a numerical expression? And this is from Big Ideas Math, pages 12 through 19. So pause the video if you need to so you can write that down. I'm going to begin the notes. So the first thing we need to talk about is a power. And that is a big idea, so I'm going to circle it. A power is a product, or multiplying, of a repeated factor. So this is the definition of it. Okay. A base of a power is the repeated factor. And the exponent of a power indicates the number of times the base is used as a factor. Okay, so that's our definition. Let's explain a little bit more. Oftentimes when we see something like this, we call that an exponent. But the truth is, this part right here is actually your exponent. This whole thing is called a power. And when we look at that, this part, this big number at the bottom, that's going to repeat over and over again, this is called your base. And this little number up here that tells you how many times you multiply that 3 by itself is actually your exponent. Now, it's not wrong to call the whole thing an exponent. We all do it. But just so you know, it's actually called a power. And this is your base and this is your exponent. Now, this means that we're going to multiply this base number, 3, as many times as this little exponent tells you to. So this 3 is going to be multiplied 4 times. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now, interesting fact, multiplication is just abbreviated or speeded up, that's not a word, sped up addition. So instead of saying 3 times 3, we would go 3, or instead of 3 plus 3 plus 3, you could say 3 times 3. Well, exponents or powers are abbreviated multiplication. It speeds up the multiplication. We also use them when we're doing area and volume. So if you had an area problem where we were doing, let's say this is 2 and this is 3. Doesn't look right, but it's fine. You have the length times the width. And because you're doing those two different components, you're going to have an answer that's squared. It's the second power. Okay? And that's telling you that each length times width, each length times width, length times width, length times width. So you would do 2 times 3 equals 6. And let's call this, these are centimeters, centimeters squared. Now we could also have volume, okay, which is 2 times 3 times 4. That is our length times width times height. So this is area. So volume, length times width times height. You have the third component. So 1, 2, 3. And since you're now getting that third element, you're going to cube it. So we would do 2 times 3 times 4. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. And you would do it to the third power, 4 cubed. That's one way that we use exponents in the real world. We also can write it as extended form. So let's say we had 2 to the third power, okay? I could write this as 2 to the third power. I could write this as 2 cubed. And it would look like 2 times 2 times 2. Now, when I solve this, I will first figure out these two. 2 times 2 is 4. Now I'm going to multiply it by this 2, and I'm going to get 8. Okay? So it goes these two, and then you throw that one in. That's an exponent. It's a repeated multiplication. Now, oops, let me pause that for a second so you guys can write that all down. Sorry, I wasn't showing it all to you. Okay, so once again, it's repeated multiplication. Now, we're going to use this to now go into talking about expressions and equations in beginning algebra, and specifically order of operations. Now, you have probably heard a thing called Pemdas. Pemdas, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We do our parentheses, we do our expressions, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Well, while that is useful to help kind of remember the order, there is some confusing parts to that. I'm going to kind of work that out with you guys, okay? So let's write some definitions first. A numerical expression is an expression that contains only numbers and operations. Now, we will be getting to algebraic expressions. Algebraic expressions use not only numbers and operations, but also variables. We're going to do that next. But for right now, only numbers and operations. Remember our operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Also parentheses and exponents. To evaluate, which by the way is just a fancy math word for solve. To evaluate, use a set of rules called order of operations. Now, we've talked about this. We often think of our friend Pemdas. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now, I think this actually does a disservice to you because the reality of it is it's really parentheses, exponents, like it could be like that, or it could be like that. And what I'm saying by this is it's actually parentheses, exponents, division or multiplication, whichever one comes first, from left to right, and subtraction, addition, or addition, subtraction, whichever comes first from left to right. So these two actually can either go first, and these two can either go first. It doesn't have to be addition first, and it doesn't have to be multiplication first. And I think that's where this can actually be confusing. All right, so let's do a problem. Let's take 82 minus 2 times 4 times the quantity 1 plus 2. Notice that I said the quantity of. Whenever you put something in parentheses, you use the quantity of, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, our first step, is perform operations. I just put two P's there. This angle. That's why I teach math, not English. Perform operations in parentheses. Now, it doesn't just have to be your parentheses. It could be, if you have brackets, anything like that you could use that separates your math out. So in this case, we have this bracket here. These parentheses here. So we're going to solve 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep all the rest of this the same so I don't lose anything. It's easy if you don't rewrite everything to miss some steps. Okay. So this was step 1. Step 2, you're going to do any exponents. And I just realized I forgot to put the exponent in there. Oh my goodness. Let's go and put an exponent in there. Let's do this. There. Now our problem has everything in it. Now if there wasn't an exponent, you would just move on to the next step. But for the sake of this problem, I want there to be an exponent. So let's do it. Okay. So our exponent is 2 to the second power of 2 squared. That basically means you're doing 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. All right, let's write everything else back down. That was easy enough. So this was step 2. Step 3, multiply or divide from left to right. Okay, so from this to this side, whatever you come up with first, you're going to multiply or divide. Okay, so we have 82 minus 4. That's not good, but 4 times 4. There's a multiplication problem. 4 times 4 is 16. All right, now, we're not done yet. Anytime you have parentheses next to a number or next to a variable, it means to multiply. So this means to multiply. Okay? All right, so let's do it. Let's do over here. 16 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18. Carry a 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. All right, so we end up with 48. Move all the rest of your number over. All right. All right, we're almost done. Step 4. Add or subtract from left to right. So once again, starting at this point of our equation or expression, we're going to move this way, and if it comes to addition or subtraction, we're going to do it. So we have just this subtraction fact, so we're going to do 82 minus 48. Okay, I've got to borrow 10. So I've got 12 minus 8 is 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. And we end up with the answer 34. And I like to circle my answer when I get it so it's clear. And this was step 4. And that's how you solve an expression using order of operation. Okay, I'm going to turn the page. Actually, let me give you that a second just if you need to write the rest of that down. So once again, guys, remember, Pemdas is actually please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So, and it could be, please excuse, dear my Sally aunt, because you're going to go parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide or multiply, going left to right, and then add and subtract or subtract and add from left to right. Okay, remember that your parentheses can be brackets, they can be parentheses. Also remember that an exponent is a repeated multiplication problem where you multiply the bottom number as many times as the top number tells you by itself. All right, let's do another practice problem. We're going to write evaluate. Remember, fancy word for solve. So evaluate. Let's do 30 divided by the quantity 7 plus 2 cubed, or 2 to the third, times 6. All right, step 1, parentheses. Do we have any? We do, right there. So let's do that. And you're just going to solve from, following order of operations within the parentheses. So in this case, we have an exponent. That exponent is going to tell us to do 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Rewrite the problem. All right, now let's solve the next part of the parentheses. 7 plus 8. 7 plus 8 is 15. And now that we don't have anything here and there's nothing right next to the parentheses, I can actually get rid of our parentheses. They don't need to be there. All right, perfect. We're done with the parentheses. We actually also did our exponent already, because there was one. All right, up next, multiply or divide from left to right. All right, so 30 divided by 15. 30 divided by 15 is 2. Then we have a multiplication problem. 2 times 6 is 12. Circle your answer. Now, this problem didn't have an addition problem, but we would add if we would have needed to. So if there was an addition problem added to that, we would have done that as well. So don't forget, when you're doing this, always start with parentheses, then do your exponents. Do whatever's in the parentheses first. Then you're going to multiply and divide from left to right, whatever comes first. In this case, it was dividing came first. Then you're going to add and subtract if there's anything in there for you to do, going once again from left to right. Please go back and rewatch the video if you need any help. Also, don't forget, I'm here for you. If you need help, you can come in before or after school, or just reach out to me through email. Have a great day, you guys, and take care. Bye.